There are a million reasons not to travel with your kids, and if you've been considering traveling with your kids, especially internationally, you have probably heard some of these excuses from friends or family. But today I'm here to share with you some of the reasons why you should travel with your kids and share some of the joy we've experienced since we started traveling with our kids over 2 years ago. So travel has been a big part of our relationship since Andrew and I got together, and we always knew that we wanted to travel with our kids. But then we had a baby in 2020 and all of the ideas of traveling went out the window. So by the time Delaney was born and she was big enough to start to travel and consider doing things, we decided it was finally time to make the dream of traveling as a family a reality. So all of this travel started back in November of 2023, and since then we have been on 5 international trips as a family and to 7 different countries. So based on all of these experiences, this is what we have learned and why we think you should travel with your kids. So reason number 1 why you should travel with your kids is that kids grow up so fast, and getting to spend several uninterrupted days while traveling without all the stressors of home and school and work is just a gift you cannot put a price tag on. Looking back on all of our trips and seeing all of the experiences that we've gotten to share as a family is just so incredible, and I can't imagine missing out on any of those experiences just because it is too hard to travel with kids. Reason number 2 why you should travel with your kids is travel gets easier every single time you do it. Now, that doesn't mean that everything goes perfectly smoothly every time you travel, but the more you experience it as a parent, traveling with your kids, packing, all of the things that go into planning a trip for your family, and as your kids go through it too, as they figure out riding on a plane, exploring new places, trying new foods, being somewhere that is completely different from home. Each trip is a learning experience, and all of the things that they experience and learn on that first trip will then go into making the next trip even easier and the next trip even easier. After 5 international trips, my kids are already experts at going through airport security, handling long travel days, and being completely immersed in an entirely new culture. So yes, it does get easier as you go, but you do actually have to get started. So have confidence in yourself, book that first trip, and know that from then on, everything will get easier as you go. But again, there are gonna be some bumps in the road. You are traveling with kids, you are traveling in general. Everything doesn't always go perfectly as planned, but overall, it does get a lot easier. All right, now moving on to reason number 3 why you should travel with your kids is that travel is the ultimate learning experience. Just some of the many things that my kids have learned since we started traveling is geography. Even Delaney, who just recently turned 3, can find every country we've been to on a map of Europe. They've also learned about the flags from every country, the languages from every country.
Joro, please, mitigate.
The different kinds of food, cultural traditions, and so much more. And personally, I cannot imagine a better way to teach my kids about the world than actually taking them to these places and showing them these things in person. And again, you might be a little overwhelmed by international travel, and I totally get it. Not everybody wants to jump in head first like we did, but there are also so many different things that you can see within the United States or within your own country if you're not from America that get started somewhere. The United States is a huge country. There is different food, different culture, different architecture everywhere you go across the country. So even just starting within the United States is a big first step, and I totally encourage you to give it a try. And reason number 4 why you should travel with your kids is that parenting in another country or in another state really isn't that different from having to parent at home. Yes, travel is hard. There is a lot to plan. There is a lot that goes into it. The travel days can be hard. The unexpected can be really difficult. And absolutely, it would probably be a lot easier for Andrew and I to just travel by ourselves. But if you shift your perspective away from what we would be doing if the kids weren't here or how we would handle all of this stuff differently and shift it into how can we experience this together as a family? What can we do to make our kids enjoy this experience? You are going to get an incredible experience watching your kids see a place that is new, and the skills they're going to learn from persevering through all those bumps in the road along your trip are going to help them not only when you travel, but in school, with friends, and just in so many different ways in life. So even though it's hard, it doesn't mean that it's impossible. And to just reiterate it again, I would much rather parent my kids at a playground sipping a latte in Paris or on a snow day in Sweden like I am today than I would sitting around my house at home. So if we take a couple days or a couple weeks out of the year to travel, those days or weeks will be filled with so many wonderful and amazing family experiences. All right, and now reason number 5 why you should travel with your kids is that kids don't actually need as much stuff as you would think. Now, this was hands down the most stressful part for me going into our first international trip. Delaney was only 11 months old, Haley was 3.5, and I was so concerned about all of the things we have at home that I felt like they need on a daily basis. But every time that I've traveled with them, I come home with so many things that we didn't use, and I realized there are so many things that we could rent or borrow or get from our hotel or our Airbnb. But after these 5 international trips, I've realized that kids really don't need as much stuff as you think. Hotels and Airbnbs almost always have a pack and play or some kind of crib for your child to sleep in. We have never ever flown with a pack and play. Also, if you are staying in a major city, there are also a lot of child or baby rental companies that can rent you different kinds of baby gear if you need it. You can rent strollers, pack and plays, high chairs, all kinds of things. And they also sell compact strollers that fold down really small that you can bring onto the airplane airplane as a carry-on. They fit in a bag. We have one and we have loved it. And honestly, we switched from our big heavy duty stroller to the light and compact stroller because it is just so much nicer for everyday use. But like I said, you can also rent a stroller if you need it. And we are on our second international trip where we have not brought a stroller, and kids can move around and do a lot more than you think. We did not take a stroller on our trip to Switzerland, and we didn't bring one here, although our Airbnb host was kind enough to let us borrow her stroller, and we have used it one day so far. But for the most part, public transportation, especially if you're going to a foreign country, is probably significantly better than what we have in the United States. And you might find that you might not need the stroller and that your kids might not walk as much as you think. And one more thing that I've brought on every international trip that I'm convinced my kids need is toys. I always bring a bag of toys, things for them to do. And yes, there is some stuff, especially for restaurants or situations where they would be waiting, or the airplane where they want something to do with their hands. But almost every single time I come home with at least 1 to 2 toys that they did not even touch on the whole trip. If you've planned and worked hard on an itinerary for an international trip, you probably have a lot of activities planned, or you're gonna go to playgrounds, or you're gonna sightsee, you're gonna eat, you're gonna just do so many things. There's not a lot of downtime for your kids to play. So packing toys is something I always overpack on, and I'm working really hard to pack less of because it's just something that we never use. And now lastly, in this category of kids not needing as much as you think, is babies and eating. And personally, I do not have a ton of experience with this because, like I said, Delaney was 11 months, almost 12 months when we went on our first international trip. So she was on formula by then. We had finished our pumping journey. I didn't have to bring a pump or anything that goes along with that. I was able to get by with bringing 2 bottles, a travel size thing of dish soap, and I brought a baggie of formula with us to get us over to Paris. And then once we were there, we used international formula. And I understand that there are kids with allergies or just certain sensitivities where that can be kind of difficult. Or if you are pumping, there are a ton of pieces that go along with that. Trust me, I spent plenty of time pumping too, and I can only imagine that that would be really difficult. But there are ways to get by if this is something that you really, really want for your family, and you will make it work whatever you decide. And the final reason why you should travel with your kids is because the memories and the experiences that you have together are priceless. The things that we can say that we've done with our kids, and Haley is still only 5 years old, is just unbelievable to me. If you had told me 2 years ago that we would have been to France, Germany, Italy, Denmark, England, Switzerland, and Sweden within 2 years, I would have told you you were absolutely insane. And if you had told me 10 years ago, before I even had kids, that I would even consider leaving the country with my children, I would have just never, ever believed you. We've gotten to see the Eiffel Tower in France. We've gotten to go to Christmas markets in Germany. We've seen Big Ben and Tower Bridge in England. We've eaten so much gelato and so much pasta in Italy. We have seen the Little Mermaid and the beautiful houses in Newhound and Copenhagen in Denmark. We have met alpacas in Switzerland. We have ridden mountain coasters in Switzerland. And today here in Sweden, we are experiencing a beautiful snowstorm, and it's New Year's Day. So these experiences are just absolutely incredible. And every time we come home from a trip, I am so thankful for all the time we got to spend together, all the memories we made, all the things we got to just experience together. And that's just something you can never take back. So get out there, make those memories, whether you go an hour down the road, an hour flight to another part of your state, across the country, or across the globe. Get out and make those memories with your kids, because you will never ever regret it. So I hope that hearing all of these reasons why you should travel with your kids has inspired you to say yes to the trip and get out there. You absolutely can travel with kids. It does not have to be a reason for you to just stay home and stop. Truly, the whole reason I started this YouTube channel was in the hopes of inspiring at least one person to get out there and travel with their kids. I completely owe all of our travel experiences to a handful of YouTubers who were showing themselves traveling with their own kids who were young and small, and they were in these unique and incredible places. And if I do that for just one person, then I have completely accomplished everything I wanted to do here. And again, if you have any questions or you want any help getting yourselves out there to say yes to that trip, please leave a comment down below. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure you give it a like so that more people can find it and also be inspired to travel with kids. And if you want to see more of our family travel adventures, please make sure you hit the subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you can get notified when we post new videos. And you can also follow us on social media at Dash Explorer on Instagram and Facebook. Thank you so much for watching today, and we will catch you in the next one.